Hi everyone, and great to see you here. Welcome to I guess the first virtual Enterprise Ethereum Alliance London meetup. Yeah, we're really happy to be starting these meetups back up again. We've had a bit of a hiatus since March of last year, where we've been running them fairly regularly for a number of years. And it's just taken a little bit of time with all of the adjustments and so on, with going virtual and so on and so forth, to really get ourselves back to a place where we're up and running again with them.
Okay, so the EEA has been busy this past year, and so I have I have some generic slides. I'm going to skip past most of them or go very quickly because you all know this, right? I presume you're here because you know about Ethereum, but there are a couple of things that are important to point out from an EEA perspective. So what is it that makes Ethereum special? Okay, this is something that is, I think, sometimes glossed over, but Ethereum is special because of its community. We have more than 15 times the number of developers in the Ethereum community than exist in the second largest blockchain community. And this makes an enormous difference. One of the things that it actually lets us have is a decentralized base. And so if you're working with Ethereum, whether it's mainnet Ethereum or even Enterprise Ethereum, the base of the technology is not controlled by any one entity. That's really nice. Means that you have choice. It means that anyone else can show up in the ecosystem at any time and produce a solution. So there's a difference between open standards and open source. And even though Ethereum itself doesn't have a standard per se, it's got a collection of standards, which I'll talk about in just a sec. Ethereum has some of the properties of a standards developed solution in that no one entity controls it. And I think that's a really big plus for those of you who don't like feeling locked into one particular vendor. And in fact, often I'll hear people say, oh, but such and such is open source. Well, keep in mind that open source is still only one implementation, right? You may have many people contributing to it, but there's still only one implementation ultimately. And when you're talking about standards, when you're talking about Ethereum itself, you actually have multiple different implementations that work together. And I think Ethereum is one of the best examples of that because of the different clients that we have on mainnet. So the third here, and I alluded to this, of course, we are the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, and we do standards development. We do other work as well. But the EIP process and the ERCs existed before the EEA, and they are the primary driver for the core of everything that is produced in the Ethereum space. And that includes the core of the work that we do as well. So I think it's important to remind people of these three items in particular. They're the ones that I think are most important in terms of understanding what the EEA is for. The EEA, I've got some other generic slides that were about, the industry. Actually, I'll just go ahead and comment on this. This slide actually, and a couple slides that follow, I got from Clemens Wan, who had written this back in the middle of last year. When I went to update the numbers, it was amazing how much they'd increased. In fact, I almost went and changed these to percentage change in the last half year. Because I think that's probably even speaks more to the devotion of the community. And in the interest of moving on, I'll just say that obviously big community. We have strong enterprise support in the Ethereum industry, large enterprise and small startups. And in fact, it's really interesting looking at the startups and how much they drive this space. I have here a list of member organizations, or actually some of the member organizations in the EEA, and the list of groups that we have. We can make the slides available later for people who want to go back and look at that. And of course, we're happy to talk with you as well at any point about any of this. But I did want to just show that there is a variety of work that's going on. before I move into talking about what we've been busy with most recently. Okay. So I want to talk, sort of give you an overview, and this actually went out to our members as a list of the things that we did in 2020. And then I'm going to talk about sort of how we got there, some of what we've been focusing on as in terms of the changes that have happened within the organization last year after I joined and as we go forward. We held 2 events. This was new for us. We actually had never held our own big sort of conference level events. And we held 2 of them last year with a total of over a couple thousand attendees. So very, very successful events. We held a workshop on token taxonomy early in the year. It's interesting to me, we'll be talking more about workshops later. Expect to see a lot more workshops. So we had 1 last year. There are going to be many more than that this year. One of the things that we're most proud of is the number of educational webinars. We had a total of 45, and that includes the ones that have come from the various interest groups that we have as well. But really puts us, pretty high up there in terms of organizations producing educational content that is enterprise focused with respect to Ethereum. We had several of our specifications get updated. The core client specification, sometimes referred to as the technical specification or the core specification. This is for what's been referred to as Enterprise Ethereum. It's the private permissioned use of Ethereum. We published both versions 5 and 6 this year. And we also published the first 2 versions of the permissioned blockchains specification, which is essentially about what does it mean to communicate and run such networks. We published a whole bunch of non-technical documents as well, several use case documents, and we'll definitely be doing more of those this year. We launched the member council. I'll be talking about that more later, and added 36 new members. That's a pretty steady increase each year for us, or a pretty steady set of new members. We're expecting that this year we're going to see that increase. There's been a dramatic increase, as you all know, in Ethereum itself, not just the currency. That's not what we're focused on. We're not focused on the currency as a industry alliance. But that always generates excitement. And so between that and decentralized finance, which I'll be talking about in a moment, we really have seen, we're expecting to see a lot of additional growth this year. Now, personally, and this is something I don't really talk about later in the slide, so I wanted to bring it up here. I reached out to a little over half of our members already. My goal is to reach to every one of our members. I think we can do that by the middle of this year. I will have hopefully reached out to all of you. So for any of you who are members and who have not yet received an email invitation to talk with me, it's coming. I definitely want to speak with you, and that is something that's personally very important to me, is that I remain accessible to our members. In that invite, which you should be getting, I do have a link to my Calendly, so feel free to schedule me for a meeting. Let's see, we rechartered a couple of our groups. The core specifications working group that produced the 4 specifications that I listed up above, and also our testing working group, and I'll be talking more about that group a little bit later. We also chartered a new working group, the EthTrust group, and I'll be spending a lot more time on that. Again, I can't see anyone right now, so if someone has a question, either interrupt, or if you raise your hand, hopefully Connor will interrupt me. Okay, so this is where I really want to spend a good bit of time, and that's to talk about the changes that have happened since I joined. So as Connor mentioned, I joined this last year. It was in July. So I've been with the EEA just a little more than 6 months now. I'm very proud of the events that we've put on. I did talk about those briefly before, that we had really good attendance from our 2 events, the the general one, our first one that was in July, and then our Asia Pacific focused one that was in December. So we did 2 last year. We are currently expecting and anticipating that we will do 2 this year. We'll see how that cadence works going forward. But the key for us is that it's important that we provide valuable information for the industry. Although we do give preference to, or we try to give preference to members in our conferences and in presentations, our goal ultimately is to have information that is valuable for the broader industry. And so if you see something that looks too much like a sales presentation, let us know, because we actually work very hard not to do that. Now, for those of you who are thinking, oh, well, then I don't want to be in the EEA if I don't get to just do a sales presentation. I want to tell you one of the things that I've learned in all of the conferences I've been involved in and through presentations that I've given. People don't come to watch sales presentations. They come to learn something. No one is going to mind a slide or two about your company and about the products that you have. But if you provide something of value in your presentation, I guarantee you, they will remember you. They will remember who gave the presentation, and they will remember who the company is that you work for. And that actually is a much better selling point than having one of your marketing people come and give a presentation on their products. So we really do work very hard to make sure that our presentations provide value of that sort. And we plan to continue doing events at that level. But that's what we're doing. Obviously, the webinars, we've done many of them. We plan to continue. Those have been very successful. We find that our members really do enjoy the webinars, and actually the broader community as well. But one of the things that we're adding, we want to do more of this year, is workshops. Workshops are interesting because they don't require the same level of commitment either from us or from participants. And so that applies both to, when comparing to the working groups and when comparing to the larger conferences. When we hold a workshop, it is typically open to anyone. You don't have to be a member usually. And the goal is to actually, gather input, look at whether there might be interest in creating a group, an actual interest group or working group at the EEA. So this is something that, we only did one officially last year, but you can expect to see a lot more of that this year. We're actually already working right now. Let's see. Well, I'll talk about it at the end. We have a couple things happening that I'll mention at the end just before I wrap up, which apparently needs to be in 5 minutes. Okay, all right. The key thing that we did is we read it.
Gonna say,
Connor?
Don't worry if you run over, because we've got half an hour for the meeting session, so we can always strip it back for 20 to 15, 20 minutes instead, so you can keep going. Okay.
All right. I'll still speed up because that networking time is valuable. Okay. So what we did is focused a lot last year on revamping our groups. So traditionally we've had special interest groups, working groups, and then task forces within working groups. We're changing over now to having only interest groups and working groups. Interest groups are, their primary goal is to focus on collecting and documenting use cases, user stories, definitions of problems that need solving, because let's face it, EEA is a neutral body in which we can help solve problems that you have that are greater than you alone can solve, right? So a problem that you share with your competitors, the EEA is a neutral forum in which we can address those problems. So the goal of an interest group is to actually get ready to address those problems by collecting the use cases for work to be done, and then very precisely defining problems in the form of working group charter proposals. So we've made it a lot easier for members to propose and create both interest groups and working groups. And when I speak with you, or if you give me a call, that's where our conversation will go. It will center around, how can we help you? What is it that we can help you do in your business? Are there problems we can help you to solve? Problems with Ethereum? They can be technical, legal, regulatory, it doesn't matter. All we need is a clear definition of a problem to solve. Or is it networking? We can help you with that as well. So interest groups. Interest groups get us ready to solve problems, and then working groups are narrowly scoped to actually solving a specific problem. Now, the result could be a specification, which is what we've done traditionally, or it could be guidelines. It could be, for example, the collection of a speaker bureau. One proposal that we heard, this hasn't been turned into anything formal yet, but let's say the members of the EEA would like to see the EEA participate more in regulatory conversations. So rather than lobbying, okay, which is something we don't do, and we currently don't have any plans to do, what we would be happy to support at this time is essentially a speakers bureau, where there's a group that vets individuals who the group believes would be a really good speaker for a European Regulatory Commission conversation. So that's the kind of thing that you could create that goes beyond just the technical specification work. The key with these groups, interest groups and working groups now, one of the important keys is that they are also time limited. It is possible to recharter groups, but now you do have to argue for why it should be rechartered. We want groups to be valuable, and I really mean that. That comes from my over 20 years of experience at W3C and IET, where it's been very clear that the groups that succeed are the ones that have a narrowly defined scope and have a time limit that keeps people working productively. So that's what we're doing with all of our groups. They're changing over to that model. Now, one of the other big things that we did was we introduced a member council. I mentioned that briefly before. This consists of one official representative from each member organization. And the idea here was to introduce additional opportunities for governance, participating in the governance of the EEA. We want this to be a venue for member discussion, for surveys that either members suggest would be good for the EEA to run, or ones that may be provided to us. We actually are going to be partnering with someone pretty soon on a survey that is about what businesses, what businesses would like to see in terms of skill sets for individuals coming out of universities. So that's an example of one that we plan to run with our member council shortly. When groups are proposed, interest groups or working groups, we run the charters by the member council. And so that's an opportunity for members to comment, to get involved in the investments to the charter if they believe that with a few changes it could be better and that they would like to participate. And eventually, I'd like to run some of our working group deliverables by the member council also, just as a great sort of sanity check to make sure that that the groups that are producing results don't produce something without the awareness and and agreement eventually of the member council. So as far as meetings, we're looking at doing that a couple times a year. We had one meeting last fall. I believe we said that it was going to be quarterly, but I think that's too frequent a cadence right now. And we're really hoping that we can make our next one, well, our next one will probably be virtual, but we're hoping that the one later this year will actually end up that we can do it in person, please, because we all know how important the networking is. I didn't talk about that with the events, but one of the big things that we are really focusing on this year with respect to events is trying to make them more interactive. So just like we're going to have some networking opportunities here in the meetup, we want to make sure that our events do a better job of allowing people to network and speak with each other. A couple other things that we're starting this year. The first one is a monthly member spotlight, where any member of the EEA can fill out a form that puts them in the queue and to have a member spotlight, and then we'll do an extra blurb on our website, and you know, extra releases on our channels about you and something interesting in the Ethereum space that you've done recently. So we already today will republish news. We have a very large channel. We've got over 20,000 followers on our various channels, and so you know, we're always happy still to re-announce and re-promote your news. So if you have any kind of news, please send us that at any time, and we'll get it into our newsletter and our other channels. But the member spotlight is an opportunity to have a focus that's just on you. We haven't decided yet whether there's going to be an interview as part of that, but it is intended to be something bigger than just sort of a rebroadcast of your news. We're also planning to do a quarterly group spotlight. And so this is to give an opportunity for our different groups to talk about the work that they've done and the successes that they've had. Okay, now about some of the specific work going on. We rechartered the testing working group. Its official name is the Client Interoperability Testing Working Group, just informally testing. Antoine Toulmé from the Machine Consultancy has agreed to take that on, and they've already got it running. So there's a testnet running that has both Besu and Go Quorum nodes running use the Click consensus protocol, and it's working. Okay, so this is a testnet that you as an EA member can use to try things out. So there is information available. I've put the links here for what, if you want more information or want to get involved. Antoine on the EEA Slack, you can reach him there. And he is, would love to actually help you try things out. If you want to test something out, that's a great resource that is available. One of our other groups that we're very excited about is the EthTrust working group. So the idea with this group was that, smart contracts get hacked, okay? And this can cause millions of dollars, millions of euros in losses. And there's really no good way to know whether contracts are safe or not. Now, while we cannot guarantee that a contract is safe, we're not going to guarantee that. What we can do, the idea here is kind of like the Michelin star rating, okay, where we give a badge to a contract that has been through some level of review. A level 1 review would be automated and would have some very generic tests of a smart contract. Once you get to levels 2 and 3, we're talking about audit by a security firm that has agreed to abide by at least our requirements that we establish. We're still working out what level 2 and level 3 means. So what you see on this slide may change. Care about this and how it ends up, please feel free to join and participate in the group. What we are doing is actually defining these different levels, what the requirements are, for an audit organization to actually get approved by us as an auditor. And then we're also going to produce we're producing some software to develop a registry that will keep track of which audits have been done on which smart contracts. So as I say, this does not guarantee that a smart contract is safe, but if you are an organization trying to make a determination about how much in the way of assets you're willing to trust to a particular set of smart contracts, the information from that will come from this project may end up being of use to you in making that decision. Okay, we've got 3 other groups that are in development. DeFi, 26 billion US dollars locked up in DeFi contracts today. That is enormous. Almost half of that is in lending. Okay, so if you look at lending and the decentralized exchanges, that's most of it. We are in the process of creating a DeFi interest group right now. We think this will be big, obviously, since this is big in the broader community. So definitely look for that. Look for an announcement about that. If you're a member, look for information on the member council. any time now, actually, because we are developing this right now. We're also in the process of developing a tokenization interest group. This is not a group to define tokens. This is a group to collect use cases around business processes that could benefit from tokenization. So an example might be a loyalty program. Okay, so grocery stores, airlines, they've all got loyalty programs. That itself is a business process, a loyalty program, essentially. And so that's something that could benefit from using tokens. That doesn't mean one token necessarily, it might be multiple tokens. But what we want to do is from this group is to then spawn working groups that will provide guidelines for businesses on how to tokenize those processes. So for example, a loyalty program, if you want to tokenize a loyalty program, what are the things you need to consider? What kinds of partnerships might you need? How long is that process going to take? So that kind of information we think would be really valuable for our members, and actually not just our members, but those that they may partner with out in the industry. So that, that will be public from the working groups for sure. The last one is authority to operate working group. So essentially this is a NIST approved version of the EEA core specs. Right now, as many of you may know, there are cryptographic technologies used in Ethereum that are not currently on the NIST approved list for the US government or US government agencies. And so that's a problem if you're trying to sell into the US government, a solution that it requires special approval in order to get your product approved or your solution. The goal of this working group is to actually be able to propose changes to our Enterprise Ethereum specifications or additions to them that would enable sort of a default authority to operate. And so if you comply with those requirements, then you're more likely to be approved more quickly by the US government. So that's basically it. I just wanted to give a little bit of a call out for some events we have coming up. There is a meetup, a joint meetup between our organization and the Blockchain Acceleration Foundation. That's an introduction to zero knowledge proofs for business. And our next education series webinar, we're very excited to announce that Caitlin Long is going to be joining us. She has produced, she basically, created the first digital bank in the US. And so she's going to be talking with us about the process that's involved. Our next big conference, Ethereum in the Enterprise, State of the Art. That's what we're looking at right now. We're looking at talking about ETH2, Layer 2, and more. Is going to be in April. A tentative date is the 22nd, so don't hold us to that. That's why it's in question marks there. But keep an eye out for that. That's what's coming up. Thank you. Any questions, or I'll turn it back to you, Connor, and you can decide what you want to do. Whether you want to take questions now or go straight into the.
I think we should open it up for one or two questions if anyone has anything they wanted to ask while you're here before we go into the breakout rooms. Please raise your hand if you do have anything. One question that I've got just is on the DEA and I guess opening it up. Historically, quite a lot took place behind closed doors, and I know that since you've come on board, you've come from that world which is very open with respect to standards, and the DEA has certainly started to make progress there. But I was interested just for your take on it as well now.
Yes, so a couple of things. So this has been a discussion at the board level, right, as to how much we want to open up and how. And I think there are some interesting questions. One of the interesting questions, frankly, that's come from a board member is about maintenance of particularly open source and concerns about projects that get built and then just kind of, they sort of die away, right? And what is the maintenance expectation and requirement? And so I think there would need to be some discussion around that. But yes, I come from a world where all of our work is in public view, and it's so I have a strong bias towards that. So in the meantime, this is one reason that we're beginning to use workshops, okay, to kick off work. And for working groups, if they're, or interest groups, if they would like to collect more information from the public, then there may be a way to do that using a workshop that doesn't affect some of the IPR concerns that get brought up when we talk about openness. But there is something else that I'm working on I can't talk about. It's kind of slow going, but I am working very hard on getting an additional large opportunity, essentially, to open up more of the work that we do for work where that's appropriate. Not everyone wants that. And so I think that's important to keep in mind that, there are projects that start with open source software, and often they want to stay open as they do standards development, like Baseline is a good example. And then you have other projects where there may be a number of companies who have their own proprietary implementations and need standards. And so, it's the need for openness is still there because the world needs to see the standard that is being created. But that doesn't necessarily mean that contributions from individuals who are not going to be, producing implementations themselves is appropriate for that group. So there's a lot of subtlety there. And I know I haven't given you some details on exactly how all of that's going to happen, but it is still a drum that I'm banging, and we are making progress, and you will see some changes this year in that respect.
Wonderful. We've got one question from Caleb, and this is if you could elaborate more on your work with NIST and what you touched on there. It's something, given time, I guess, if there's like a quick update where you can maybe refer to where people can look to find out more, that's probably the best way.
Yeah, the quick comment is the group has not started, and we are not working with NIST. This is a group of EEA members to try to make something that is NIST compliant. We are expecting that NIST will participate. We would like for them to participate in this, okay? Whether they participate or not depends a lot on their instructions from the new US administration that just came in, to be blunt, right? They don't always, well, anyway, they have a lot of directives they have to follow. But we will create the group, and we will do the work, and we will do our best to bring in expertise from NIST because in the end, if the regulators don't approve, it's not going to happen. So just look for an announcement, okay? And look on our website if you're not a member for when this group gets created, and then we'll go from there.
Cool, thanks, Dan. Well, yeah, this has been really great to get the update, and just wanted to give you, if everyone could give Dan a virtual round of applause. Yeah, thanks a lot. We've managed to secure our speakers for the next meetup that's going to be happening well, on the 24th of February. So we're going to have Adam Clark, the CTO of Finality. He's going to be giving a presentation there, and also Daniel Norkin, the co-founder and CEO of Envision Blockchain Solutions. And so we're really excited that to hear from them. These are both individuals working for companies that have been doing a lot with blockchain for a number of years. Finality's been around for, it's there to facilitate interbank payments. It's one of, I guess, the original kind of high profile projects that was earlier on called Utility Settlement Coin, and Envision Blockchain. They've been very involved in the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance as well as Baseline as well, and actually work with a number of different blockchain protocols too. So I think they'll have some really good stories there to tell too. So we'll be publishing details of the meetup, I guess imminently, on our meetup page, and the talks from today's meetup will be available. It should be within the coming days, and we look forward to seeing everyone again. And thank you again to John and Dan for your talks as well. It's awesome to have you guys here too.